yet another episode of Dynamic CIO. This is a place where we strike conversations with leaders and discuss various topics for the CIO community. Let's talk about automation and RPA today. Now, the market research report predicts that RPA market in India will grow at a compounded annual growth rate of about 20% during the forecast period between 2019 and 2025. And the market for RPA in India is driven by the increasing demand to automate accounting and process management. Furthermore, RPA vendors are focusing on developing best-in-class intelligent process automation blocks. RPA software helps enterprises to reduce the human resource requirement in various customer support activities. Now, according to analysis, the Indian RPA market is lagging behind North America and Europe regions, and RPA is still in its infancy stage. What we say is RPA is a journey and not a project or a program. And intelligent RPA is the way forward in achieving process efficiency, productivity, compliance, and achieving customer satisfaction. And nothing stops the Indian organizations to leverage the same. To discuss this and more, we have with us Mr. Milan Sheth, Executive Vice President, IMEA Region for Automation Anywhere, formerly National Director and Partner Technology Sector at Ernst & Young. A little about Milan. He's a seasoned professional with more than 20 years of experience in advising the boards of leading public companies in digital services, technology-enabled business transformation, and functional transformation. Welcome, Milan, to the show. Let me start with the first question. Now, given the present scenario of COVID, everybody's talking about the first, we have already passed the second wave, and the third wave is expected to peak in October and September. Digital transformation and intelligent automation has been the key to business resilience. How do you see this shift?
Well, I think, as you said, that resilience is something which has been tested across industries, and one of the ways when people could not visit their offices and the usual way of work, the way we understood work has undergone change. That essentially means that you still want to get the work done, but you necessarily may not have people at the same place, and also many a times you will not have ability to respond to customer issues, employee issues, supplier issues, in time, because of just that physical dimension of work has almost kind of gone absent. In that context, everybody relied for resiliency on the digital aspect of work. That as much digitally you can service, engage, and fulfill the demands of various stakeholders. I think it helps. So clearly, I think to our mind, we are saying that this entire physical dimension of work is getting redefined. That you will still need it for sure, but will you need it in every action which you do in servicing your suppliers, customers, and employees? Or will you move some of that to digital? So I think that journey has happened, as everybody has witnessed in every organization, every sector. And that's something which is, I would say the biggest kind of, if I may say, positive or which came out of it. That organizations hopefully will become more nimble, more agile, given this entire shift which we all have witnessed.
Great. As I said, earlier also, Milan, RPA is a journey. It's not, something like just a process. Now, what impact do as you said, you've taken it in a very positive, you put the positive stride forward. So what will be the impact on the opportunity and the scope for the automation tools after the pandemic? I hope it ends soon. And how do you think it will affect the way work happens in future? For example, we talked already, the pandemic has not ended, but all of the companies are already talking about hybrid models of workplace, etc. So how will it affect the way work happens in future?
Well, I think, as I kind of alluded earlier, the physical dimension, and what are the physical dimensions of work? Physical dimensions of work is that you're going to a branch of any, or a goods or a service, and there is a set of transactions which is happening, which is taking X amount of time. Now that entire physicality of that transaction, some of it might still stay, but some of, a lot of it can get digitized. If I take an example from a banking world, you visit a branch to do a variety of things, but if you could do it self-service even before visiting a branch. And when you visit a branch, instead of physically checking every document which you are submitting, if that gets digitally be checked by using a bot, uh, and a bot can do bulk of activity, your transaction time reduces, and hence, in that sense, your branch interactions will become speedier. So that is one kind of angle. The second part is that when you have business to business transaction, I give you an example of consumer transaction. Let's take a business to business transaction. uh, in a business to business transaction, you have systems at both ends, and if and there is a lot of significant document movement, if I may use that word. So the PDF gets exchanged and email gets exchanged to complete any transaction. It could be a sales order, it could be a purchase order, it could be a planning order, and whatnot. And if that process gets digitized using bots, and bots can do that, you know, extracting data, classifying data, uh, processing that data, and finally probably even reporting on that data, all done by a bot built on the logic which has been built in, that kind of accelerates your ability to do transactions. So there is an element of acceleration, speed. There is an element of I would say compliance, or you're able to do many more transactions and check many more transactions what you could have done it humanly. And the third element which comes in is the experience, that if you're a customer or if you're a supplier or even if you're an employee. Let's take an example. If I'm an employee and I want to get my my travel reimbursement or my provident fund processed, some withdrawals processed rapidly. Now if there is a cycle of X days, if using bots that cycle can be accelerated. Obviously, it reduces time, but it also enhances the experience for all the stakeholders. So I think the automation is kind of coming to the core of the way the business processes are or will be conducted in future. And wherever possible, a digital intervention uh, has to happen. I think bots would be the first choice, because it's easy to deploy very quickly. You can see results. I mean, you can obviously have a choice of deploying a massive system, but that will take months and years and whatnot. And versus a bot which can get deployed in 4, 5, 6 weeks, even some of them even in a lesser time than that.
So I'll go a little off syllabus, since it's a free flowing conversation. You spoke about the bots and the experience that it can get. Now, usually companies, it's a expenditure, or rather, I would not say an expenditure. It's a wrong word that I'm using. It's an investment that a company is making. Okay, in the automation. Will do companies in India, are they still open to make such investments in terms of the example that you gave? For example, reimbursing expenses for the employees. Would Yeah, what is your perspective on companies in India making such investments for internal stakeholders rather than the external stakeholders? What is just your perspective?
No, so it's a great question. See, I think it's a very very good question, because 5 years back, when everybody talked about digital, all the companies made investments in the front end channel. So you suddenly had a web based approach, you had a telecalling, you had some chat window available where customers or distributors can reach out to the companies. So I think pretty much every company in every sector has made that investment, right? So that's pretty clear. Now, what customers and the companies have learned over the period, that my front end could be digital, but if my internal everything is physical, it still doesn't mean that I'll have a faster experience. So if you and me, as if I go to a branch, and instead of going to a branch, somebody says, "Hey, you can do it on a mobile app, and you can change your credit card limit, on a mobile app," just as an example. But after interacting on a mobile phone, internal to the bank, if all processes are still physical or manual, then it will still take 3 days to do it, and then your experience is lost. So I think what has happened is that companies have started paying attention to uh, doing an end-to-end digital experience or digitization, so that the experience gets enhanced. Now, to your second part of the, or very important part of the question, is that would you do it only which is applicable to customers, or will you also doing internally? And that's where this end-to-end digital automation comes into play, that when you are automating finance, when you are automating HR, when you are automating some of these functions, you are essentially enhancing some experience, whether it is employee, customer, or supplier, right? And that's where more and more companies are getting um, getting in that direction. And then I think probably the very first question you asked me, the resilience angle also kind of plays a big role when you make internal investments. That if you are able to give a high degree of business continuity readiness for the company or for the process or the function, that's where now these investments are justifiable. Uh, Earlier, they would have said, "Oh, it's okay. My employees will." I'm not sure how many companies will publicly say that, but they said it's okay. They can wait for a few days. But now they're saying, "Hey, if I'm able to automate that, make it more resilient, I think it will just help my organization to not necessarily depend on that physical intervention." So I think is it happening at the pace which like a company like ours or any digital evangelist would want it? Probably no. But is it happening? Absolutely yes. Some sectors are ahead. Some sectors probably will play a catch up game.
I like your positive stride in all the answers that what the conversation that we are having. Okay, so as I spoke earlier, how about corporates are slowly adapting and incorporating the hybrid working model, and that's what the plan for the future is, and that's no doubt is the future is what all the corporates are saying. How do you think should a CIO rethink their technology operating models, and how should they prepare for long term for enabling these future workplaces?
Well, I think there are so many dimensions to that question. So I probably am not the right person to address every component of that. But I can take one mega trend. And that mega trend is that uh, employees, suppliers, distributors should be able to transact anywhere, anytime, and in any mode, right? So that is something is the ultimate design where your employees, distributors, suppliers, any other stakeholders, contract workers, they should be able to access it. And so that's step number one, which is the availability part. The step number two is that interaction, whenever it happens, should be as minimal on documents, as minimal on paper, as minimal on some of the other aspects. So that's the second part. And probably the third important dimension is scalability. It should be ready for future. So it should have cloud built in so that I don't have to spend considerable amount in my hardware in the organization. So today, organizations which are doing a 3-year or a 5-year design, for them, cloud is an integral part, automation is an integral part, and third is ability to provide access to everybody anywhere. So this is future now, but the future is a continuum, right? It's not that what I have I'm going to junk it and straight away go to future. So then another element comes that what I have today, what I already invested, I would call it as a legacy systems or a ERP systems, etc., while you still keep it, but don't make significant time investment and cost, and a spend investment on that. And find solutions which actually are cloud ready, find solutions which allows you to deliver with speed automations, and which allows you to bring that variability in your response. So for an example, we work with one of the biggest pathology labs in the country today, and nobody had ever imagined pandemic would strike, and every day they will be doing tens and thousands of diagnostic reports. Now, the organization was never built like that. It had a very standard system with a standard play. But moment you have a cloud-based automation model, their ability to, even without investing additional hardware or additional infrastructure, their ability to scale that has gone up substantially. So that's one example, and I can go on a couple other examples. But I guess the larger point I'm making is that uh, organizations for future, the CIOs which are preparing for future, will like it to be digital across the organization, will like it to be ready for cloud, and will like it to be ready for I would say ability to provide that mobility on your applications and so on. And obviously all of this has to come at a very good cost. Why there is a reasonably strong adoption on automation in India is because they are finding automation is one of those solutions which can address some of these conflicting needs.
After the pandemic, digital transformation, which was a kind of a nice to have technology in most of the companies, it has now become a must have. I soon see automation going the same way, from a nice to have technology to a must have technology in most of the industries. uh, as I see it going forward. Now, coming to the next question, automation is also helping the entire CXO community. It's not limited only to the CIO or the CTO or just the CDO or the even a CHRO, even a HR function, as you said earlier, the finance function. So, what is your take? And if you could share some use cases in these other functions like the HR and the finance and the data.
Yeah, so see, finance and HR, I think, are the obvious choices. In finance, all the processes from procure to pay, order to cash, record to report, hire to retire. I mean, these are the broad mega processes which are highly amenable to automation. If I look at payroll or HR, benefit administration, or employee services, employee record updation, so those are like very easy. Employee joins the company, provisioning of their user access and whatnot. I mean, those are very straightforward ones. I think what we have witnessed is that now automation is getting into more operations aspect. So plant management, plant maintenance, where there is a daily update which happens, and there is a tons of data which kind of can get generated, and analyzing and processing that. Bots can do all that activity, populate that. The other aspect is in terms of sales side, sales and customer experience. You've got queries coming from your end customers, leads coming into your organization. How does that lead gets processed within the organization? How that engagement happens? Moment a customer reaches out to you, how various parts of the organization can get triggered based on the automation. Bots can play a role. Third aspect is this entire contact center aspect, where customers are reaching out to you through multiple channels, and some of those transactions which today are being keyed in by the employees or your agents is something which bots can do for you. If I look at banking, whether it is loan applications, whether it is KYC submissions, whether it is GST filing, so there's GST filing in industries, uh, whether it is supply chain related use cases. We have had so many supply chain use cases in manufacturing industry. If I kind of go a little bit wider in telecom, revenue assurance activities, basically, you've got rims and rims of data, and you want to make sure that you charge the customer for every call or every service they've availed. And how do you make sure that nothing has been missed? Because it's again rims of data. There is a possibility of human error coming in. Can bots play the role? So the use cases are just simply varied across the play. What's amazing is the innovation which we see the process owners bringing into it. Many a times the innovation is all about, you have a tool, but how do you use the tool? And that's where some companies, where process owners, the function owners, CFOs, COOs, they start visualizing that, hey, my way of operating will be using this productivity tool, because essentially automation is nothing but a productivity tool. That I will use this productivity tool to change this, and the application is in the minds of the leaders, right? And visionary leaders, the forward-looking leaders, thought leaders, are the ones who are able to adopt it better. And then there are obviously followers, right? Who will say, hey, tell me all the use cases in my industry, and then I'll implement it. So both options are okay. But automation gets a big fillip is because somebody somewhere in one of the companies understood the technology and said, hey, I can apply it here, and I can make it. I can. The top of the mind example I can quote is in the fab industry, the chip manufacturing. I mean, honestly, at Automation Anywhere, we had never thought that in a chip manufacturing, silicon chip manufacturing, a lot of testing, automation can be applied. But one visionary leader in one of our customers understood that, and he's applied it, and it is working very well. We have lots of bots now in that process. So it's all about the understanding the productivity tool of automation, and then finding ways to apply it successfully in your business context.
When whatever you've been speaking about, there are three things which come to my mind. If as a person, if I want to implement automation or any other technology in my industry or anything, is basically one, as an entrepreneur or a CXO, needs to be very clear about three things: change, innovate, and secure. So, the secure part is where I'm coming to, and I wanted to ask you, with so many cases, the breaches coming in, anything that gives you sleepless nights?
Well, I think the good news here is that the security is something, when human are accessing your systems, you still have this element called as the human element, for lack of any other word. But when bots are accessing your systems, you have a choice, and a very clear ability to restrict the access, restrict the play, and then the bot will not go out of the predictable behavior cycle and do something else. I think in the security parlance, they always say that the human element is very, very unpredictable. I think the good news in an automation is that as long as the bots are in a secure environment, which is your environment, your teams have done the coding and built the logic, I think then your chances of malfunctioning are almost nil. That's one aspect. The second aspect is that anyway automation, products like ours do not store any data, so we also don't have that challenge where we are the custodians, or we are kind of collecting that data, and that data to subsequently fall in wrong hands. Good news is that we are essentially tools which work on top of the existing systems, and hence the security is as strong as or as weak as what you had in your underlying systems. So as long as your underlying systems are relatively secure, or secure, not relatively, are secure, then automation will simply make it more robust versus making it exposed to any risk. So I think yes, there are, and the good news here is that the banks are the best customers for us in that sense, because they test our products, they challenge the underlying code, they do everything. And once we have deployed it at banks, and based on their very, very strict guidelines, I think we are reasonably confident to take it to all the other industry anyways.
RPA is such a word, and automation is such a word that a lot of people are have two minds about it. Or, is it safe, secure? And you put it in such a easy way. You may, for a layman, to all our viewers who will be listening our conversation later, will now I feel will be saying that no, automation is also a must to have, technology which we need to implement. So, last question, not taking too much of your time. Where do you think is the future of automation, and where are we headed in automation by 2025?
Well, I think it's always tough to kind of do future gazing, because there could be a revolutionary technology which might be coming. But I think but definitely one aspect is that directionally we know that few things will happen in next 3 to 4 years. One is that cloud and cloud-based deployment is, I think, where the world is heading. And today, at least, we have made first attempts. We are very, very, very kind of dominant player in that space. I'm sure that on cloud, what all can you do more to make it cheaper, faster, better? I think that's one area where product will shape up and the roadmap will kind of unfold. The second dimension is that integration of various elements. So today we are integrating documents and data from documents, which is fairly structured in nature or semi-structured in nature. Probably 3 to 5 years from now, with many other complementary technologies, we will be able to look at unstructured data. It could be voice, it could be text, it could be a simple written English or any other regional language play. So there is a likelihood that some good development or collaboration will happen between companies, and you will see some interesting kind of way it is developing. The third dimension which we look at it is the AI dimension, right? And I think we haven't had a chance for us to speak about it, but today we use some AI components and AI is integral in RPA product which we build. And then that AI will get more and more sophisticated. It will get sophisticated in terms of the industry which it operates in, as well as many a times the functions which it services. Could be a supply chain function, could be a customer facing function, could be some other functions, operations function, manufacturing function. So that's where the new pieces will come. So it'll be incremental change, but some of the increment will have a multiplier effect on the end industry, because over the years, the way we work has not changed at all. I mean, if there is a very interesting thing I would like to share is that you the way you do a finance transaction or way you do an HR transaction, it has been same for last 60 years. Yeah, earlier we were doing it on paper, and now we are doing it on a laptop or a desktop. But the underlying process has not changed. I think what has changed is the is the we as users, we have started experiencing technology in a very different way on our phones, and that will translate from business to business industry. I think they always say that when I boot my phone, it comes in a millisecond, but when I boot my laptop, it takes such a long time, because that consumer technology moving to the business is completely then changes the way the business operates. So hopefully in next 3-4 years you will see that transition, and our business interactions hopefully will be as seamless as we all use our phones and do transactions on the phone. Hopefully. I think thanks for having us and having me on the this thing. I think automation is a lovely field, and I think all the viewers and everybody interested, I think we all should learn, uh, because it's going to impact their lives, and it's easy to learn. I think the great part is it's easy to learn. So if we could think logically and build bots using that logic, I think life becomes much better and easier.
Thank you so much, Milan. I hope next time we have a bot talking to you and taking your interview. So yeah, thank you so much for this. And on behalf of Dynamic CI, I'd like to thank you.
Thank you for having us.